it is our true pleasure and honor to have Professor Qin as, I tried to pronounce your name correctly. Did I get it right or no? Qin. Okay, that's fine. Here from Guangdong University. I will introduce our speaker, and I am very interested in this talk. All of our talks are interesting, but because I did my MA thesis and PhD dissertation on sociocultural theory, so I'm really excited for this one. So Professor Qin is a professor and PhD supervisor at Guangdong University of Foreign Studies, serving as Yunshan Distinguished Scholar in the School of Education. And she's also the director of the Sociocultural Theory and Foreign Language Education Research Center. She is Deputy Secretary General of the Second Language Acquisition Research Committee and recognized as a 1,000-year talent in the provincial 100,000, 10,000 initiative, as well as a high-end young talent at the municipal level. Dr. Qin leads 3 provincial level first-class online and blended undergraduate courses, has secured 2 national social science fund projects, and participated in multiple national and provincial research initiatives. Her publications include monographs and textbooks on sociocultural theory and cross-cultural communication. With over 80 papers in leading international and Chinese journals, her research focuses on sociocultural theory, EFL teaching, and teacher development. Our professor also reviews for high-ranked journals, and she has also received multiple teaching and research awards. I'm sure that you heard many keywords that attracted your attention, and that's why you're here. We eagerly look forward to listen to her speech. Just a little bit of reminder that we will have the talk for 40 to 45 minutes, followed up by QA. And as I have been informed, we have to be out of this room sharp. So we are trying to be very on time today. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. Is that Azar? Azar, okay, very good. Is that an Iranian name?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's my great honor to be here, to be invited by our lovely Renia. And luckily, we met the head of the office just now to say thank you to him as well. And thank you so much for everyone to be here. I'm Lili Qin from Guangdong University of Foreign Studies. Anybody who graduated from that university? Nice. Okay, so we are schoolmates. So be nice. Right. Okay, so today I'm very, very honored to be able to stand here, of course, at the podium of Hong Kong Polytechnic University. That is very prestigious university in my heart. So I hope my English doesn't disappoint you. I will try to be fluent and accurate. But today I'm going to share some insights of my team on the intersection of sociocultural theory, artificial intelligence, and foreign language education. I'm hoping that you understand the word Renaissance. What does it mean? What is Renaissance? In Chinese, 是文艺复兴, okay. And then in English, what does it really mean? Okay, here. So let's see. So Renaissance is actually a rebirth of classical thoughts.
So whatever
my understanding. So my understanding is that is the change or in a new direction of paradigm development and also theoretical development. And it's as the revival of the interest in classical antiquity. And the shift from the medieval God-centered thinking to human-centered exploration. That is the real thinking. So now with the innovation of artificial intelligence, we are having a new rebirth in this foreign language education, of course, in an innovative way. And at the very beginning, I think you probably remember about 3 years ago, then when a new tool came in, and you were puzzled. And I think most of the cases people were talking about, are we going to be replaced by AI? Okay, I hope after today's talk you have the answer whether you will be replaced. So that is the reason why I'm using this term as renaissance, because from the lens of social culture theory, it's definitely a change of thinking and a totally different theoretical lens and totally different paradigm. Okay, it's to be different because of this. So firstly, what is Perigevania? Anybody who knows about this word or have heard of this word before? It means subjective experience. Okay, nice one. Nice one. But it's not all about it. Okay, the term originated from Russian, of course. Okay, and it derives from the verb переживать. So if you read it in Russian accent, it's переживание. Perigevania, to live through a survive, overcome a significant event, and the prefix peri implies crossing over or transcending a challenge. So that's mean living through. Okay, living through some kind of. Why do we use survive or overcome? I mean, it's difficulty, right? Or we can say the conflict. Or in or in another word. So what is the noise? Right. Okay. So now page one is the every term for profound personal experiences and is different from opaque, which denotes general experience. Vygotsky appropriated into psychology theory, emphasizing this role in development. And in their early phase and later phase, the very first one is the psychology of arts. We know that Vygotsky loved aesthetic opera or we know the dramas. Okay, and one of the games he loved to play with his siblings were Shakespeare. Okay, so that's why he invented the unit of analysis of Perigevania as drama. Okay, or the unit of analysis is dramatic events rather than the others. Okay, and that is probably why you understand why it's emotional loaded or emotional intellectual response to art. So viewing artistic engagement as the pinnacle of a higher mental function. It's like viewing the same picture or the same painting. You're having different understanding of it, either emotionally or cognitively, right? And another thing is he noticed that every time one player is playing the same role, and he or she will have this different understanding of the role cognitively and emotionally. Okay, and of course that lead to different acting. And the material psychological theory is in Thinking and Speech in 1934. And that denotes the idea of a dialectical unity of emotion and cognition, a unit of consciousness and reflective lens. I think the first two are easier to understand. The last one, the reflective lens, means the social environment impacts development only as reflected through the individual's Perigevania. Reflected, reflection, that means it's not mirrored. To mirror is a total copy. But this one is, that means you have to, the external environment coming through your own mind in a reflected way. So that means you may understand why we're sitting in the same room, but you take away with different things. So as a teacher, you might understand why students both studying in the AI-assisted language learning system or context, but by the end of the day, they are having different attainment, right? And the key characteristics are the holistic unity. By the unity that we say is the unity of individual and the environment, as well the unity of cognition, emotion, and action. I would like to give it a short term like ACE, ACE, maybe or maybe CEA, the CEA, right? But anyway, it means the three triads dynamics. So the holistic unity of it means you probably understand what is Cartesian way of thinking is totally separated by mind and body, right? Okay, or what you're thinking has nothing to do with the matter, or what is happening in the matter has nothing to do with your mind. It's totally dichotomy. Okay, but now with this kind of new idea that you are thinking you are a whole, it's like in China we have Taoism, like yin and yang. It's unity, right? That you have yin and yang, but at the same time, yin and yang both have seeds of the other opposites and having influence on the other side. It's not simply a balance between yin and yang. It is a dialectical interaction between the two units. All right, so coming into a whole. So to be a whole person, you have positive and negative emotions. It's not just positive emotions without any negative emotions, right? Okay. So it is a developmental catalyst because it acts as a unit of personality formation, shaping identity through the resolution of life-altering events. By life-altering event, that means through these dramatic events, you changed a lot, either towards the dissonance or towards the resonance between the three. And it involves catharsis. Catharsis is a very literal word or term. Is something happens when an actor has very strong emotions towards something. So it is called catharsis. So you can see, again, Vygotsky loves drama. Okay, there's something happening there. Right. And then it has a temporal structure that has a narrative arc, beginning, middle, and end. It's like a drama. Okay, we have high climax, right? Okay, we have the beginning and we have an ending because of something, and unfolds in stages. And shock, despair, reorganization, for example, and may extend over years or emerge as acute crisis. So that means there's another dimension. Perijvania is historical. Okay, it is developmental, it is holistic, and it is dynamic, right? So several of the features of hegemony as a term. And social culture mediation is the support from the others. If that is the medical is therapist or family or community, and it draws on any culture tools that can get the conflict resolved. And it is also onto genetic development, but be careful that when you are using this word, please do not only describe the individual. You need to describe the individual and the society. Individual and social. Remember just now I mentioned it's the unity of a person and an environment. It's yin and yang, right? Okay, you can't just separate one of it and describe discretely. Okay. Right, okay. So the contrast with English, there are three terms. Experience, or just now, the girl just now mentioned subjective experience, lived experience, or an experience. But there are some limitation in capturing the word Perijvania with experience that implies passive accumulation or lacking active processing. It's an active transformation of personal roles. Okay, and lived experience overemphasized objectivity, neglecting objective situational unity. Just now we mentioned. And if that's an experience that captures narrativity unity but omits static working through, the emotional part is disappeared. If that is unexperienced, unexperienced 代表的不是经历还是经验 in Chinese. Okay, so it's countable now, right? Okay. All right, so in Chinese, these are, I'm sorry, this Chinese, we translate into Chinese. Okay, so you can see my Perijvania of understanding this Perijvania. Okay, at the very beginning, I said lived emotion experience, so 过往情感经历 is concerns about the historical experience. But later on, I figured out it's not just historical, but what you are experiencing now and what you probably will experience in future. Okay, and then we added like emotional experience. Why emotional? Well, there's probably you would say, are you focusing too much on emotion side or emotion dimension or an emotion element of it? But remember Shakespeare of Vygotsky's spirits, right? Okay, so there must be something emotional. But there are some scholars claiming it to be developmental experience or experience, but that lost the color of Vygotsky thinking, I'm sure. Because just now we're talking about Perigevania, we're talking about catharsis, right? Okay, so I would like to keep the emotional part of it, but it's only temporal translation. If you have some other better translation, let me know. We can talk about it. So why am I using 体验 and or 经历? Okay, this is in Chinese dictionary. Okay, Chinese dictionary says 经历是亲身见过、做过和遭受过，如他一生经历过2次世界大战。名词指的是亲身见过、做过和遭受过的事情或生活经历，而体验指的是通过时间来认识周围的事物，亲身体验。如作家到群众去体验生活。那么说他体验了这种工作的艰辛。So for example, like someone who is going, a player would like to go to some villages to experience the real life there so that it can take it back and put it on screen. Okay. So that means there are something similar to Vygotsky's understanding of Perigevania, right? Okay. So we would prefer to use 体验 rather than 经历. Our 经历 is countable noun, right? Okay. And 体验 is uncountable noun in Chinese. That is the mixture of it. So that is why in the later on this is translated by a professor from Beijing Foreign Studies University. So we will retain this translation at the moment. So the theoretical significance of this word bridges the psychology and social theory that connects the individual development to societal forces, and is the unit of analysis of drama that is being analyzed nowadays. But of course, there are some critics. Some debated its scope to affective relationship. But just now I have explained that is because it's Vygotskian. Okay, that is because of his love towards Shakespeare and drama. Okay, so I'll skip this one. So let's have a little bit of summary. Okay, the units of emotion and thinking is the dialectical unity of emotion thinking is its key connotation, connotation. And let's read this. In an emotional experience, we are always dealing with an individual unity of personal characteristics and situational characteristics, which are represented in the emotional experience. So remember, it's always emotional. But back in the deep, there are cognition and action in a social context. So just now I've explained there's not direct equivalence of English, not just experience, as I have explained. And it is also the working over of the experience. So that's why I used the Chinese word 体验. Okay, not 经历. 经历 is like objective. Okay, you have experienced these facts, but is not concerned with any emotions embedded in it, right? Okay. So there's just now I've explained the standard English translate like lived experience or emotion experience fail to capture the dialectical nature of the term, and we need to keep the word integral, the integrity of the theoretical understanding or underpinnings of it. So I'll keep it as Perigevania instead of translating it in English. Okay, so the activity and the content are the two mainstreams that Nikolai Verisov proposed. as an activity is how you have experienced it. As a content is what you have experienced. It can be a theory, theoretical tool. It can also be an analytical tool. Okay, and it's such experiences can entail a number of psychological experiences like motivation, interpretation, meaning making, imagination, and cognition. And just now I mentioned very briefly about the measure and reflection. So in sociocultural theory, they use the term prism. Okay, prism 就是棱镜效应. That means when the light coming through this prism is not direct, it's tilted. Okay, that means there's some change. Okay, it's not just you internalize what is external. Okay, exactly. So you notice the yin and yang I deliberately used. So it can be a conceptual tool. And for Vygotsky, development entails emotional tension as a necessary condition for a qualitative advance to occur. Remember just now I mentioned about a drama and dramatic event. That means a moment when there's a change. Remember? Okay. It can be changed to dissonance, towards dissonance. It can change towards resonance as well. Okay. And there are, of course, mediation play a role in the process of changing. Okay, so language, Pédagogy language teacher education is the one, as far as I know, by far, that Professor Karen Johnson from Penn State University, who is also a member of Professor James Lantoff's team, has been working with this Pédagogy at a very early age. So probably 10 years for her. Okay, so she has been working with Pédagogy, and pay attention to its plural form is Pédagogy, like this, spelled like that. And you can also replace Y with J, as in Joker. Okay, and the research shows that emotionally intense class events can serve as developmental turning points. Is the one that usually Karen Johnson will term it as growth point. 就增长点 as a microgenetic way of research. Okay. The critical implication for SLA research, after I've explained everything about Pédagogy just now, about its origins, about its meaning of the term in Russian and in English, and its contrast in English terms and in Chinese terms. So what does it bring to, what implications does the term bring to SLA? So I think I mentioned just now about its positive and negative emotions. The development arises from confronting negative emotions through catharsis languaging. So language is the one that Vygotsky picked as the unit of analysis. Why? Why is it concerned with language? He's a psychologist. Remember, he's a psychologist. He's not a linguist. So why does he choose language as a unit of analysis? And as we have probably know that Wittgenstein picked language. The limits of language is the border of mind. Remember that word? Okay, it's similar, probably not different wording. But why did Vygotsky pick language as a unit of analysis? Because outwardly, it mediates the external environment, your interaction with other people, your interaction with your laptop, your interaction with other books. Yes, okay. And inwardly, it mediates your thinking. So it's very good unit of analysis to link your inside psychology with your extra psychology that is outside of your mind, the outside world and the inside world. I think Macy had the same kind of statement claiming that we should not research too much what is inside your head, but what is your head inside of. Is basically the meaning, right? Okay, so L2, L1, emotional asymmetry is another thing that Paleontology or social culture theory cares about. The language of detachment, and which is the experience of L2 adults, and useful for processing high-stakes emotion about potential limiting feeling for speaking. And there are mediation matters. That means teachers or psychology tools such as AI and your laptop and your iPad are very important, are crucial mediations. And Paleontology as a transformative lens, as I said just now, is a renaissance, where emotion and cognition co-involve. What I mean by co-involve? Usually we understand in the hard sciences, or maybe in quantitative paradigm, most of the cases are when you're studying cognition, emotion, and action, you separate them into 3 discrete dimensions. Yes? And then you calculate with SEM or other tools to see how the 3 correlate with each other with coefficients, right? Coefficients number, we say. Cohen's d. Yeah? Okay. But let me give you an example about H2O. H2O is water, right? Okay. Let me ask, can you tell the characteristics of H2O by separating H2 and O? I mean, when you research on the characteristics of H2 plus the features of O, and you add them up, is that HO2? Definitely not. We need to research on the unity of one single substance, right? So that's why Vygotsky claimed that C, like I said, ACE is a unity. It's not discrete elements. Why is he claiming so? Because at the beginning, before him, there's serious crisis of psychology. I think it's written in his book, Crisis of Psychology. Why there is a crisis? Why there is a crisis? Because before him, there's either psychology of causality or psychology of relationships. But each of them, either side of it, did not agree with either side. They did not agree with neither. And they were even opposing each other. They say, no, we shouldn't do that. We're all psychologists. We should be one. Okay, so that's why he decided to work on culture historical theory at the very beginning. And later on, it was changed by James Worth, 1981, into sociocultural theory. That's a new term. Okay, although there are some debates on that. So catharsis is the mechanism for turning emotional tensions into development. So that is the drama, and languaging as the tool to intellectualize and transform raw effect. So languaging, that means that is the way of research. That is the method. You need to let the participants language their thinking, right? And so that you understand what they are thinking, or cognitively and emotionally. So development is not just a cognitive struggle, it is a cognitive emotional struggle. So that is what his claim is. Okay, so what are the implications for research paradigms? So we're mentioning it is one. So we cannot separate cognition and emotion because they are dialectic. So what about the method? What kind of paradigm should we adopt to realize that? Remember drama? Drama is the unit of analysis because it tells you what happens with cognition, what happens with emotion, and what happens with the actions immediately. Okay, so it's beyond social determinism. Environmental factors is not just a peripheral of factors influencing what you are doing, what you're thinking, what you're behaving, what you're feeling. Okay, it's on subjective reflection. Reflection is not only, like we said, just teaching method or behaviors or strategies or anything else. Okay, it's a whole. So there are some methodological innovations. If you read, like I said, Karen Johnson's work and the other professors' work with Patty Giovanni, you will see usually they use narrative or auto-technography, so that to capture learners' subjective reflection, language, and also dialogical journals are the ones they probably will adopt. And also there are sometimes they can capture the microgenetic analysis to trace the dramatic collisions, to trace the as unit of development change. So you can see those are qualitative research method because it's an in-depth description what is going on. It's concerns with history or background of the learners. And it concerns what is going on here, and it concerns their imagination as well. Okay. And so what about pedagogical imperatives? So how do we design our class? All of this lens, like Rainier asked me in the interview, right? So we need to create dramatic collisions that trigger emotional tension resolution. So we need to let them know you have problems, okay? And then acknowledge out to the potential for emotional detachment to enable the trauma processing or creativity. So they have to be creative to get their conflicts solved, okay? And then we need to be aware of teachers' pedagogy as well. The teachers need to understand what happened with the students. Okay, so nevertheless, just now I said, even though there are some innovations in methods, probably nowadays there's a trend towards qualitative study, but still there's very little research from Q methodology paradigm. So let me explain why I would like to adopt this method to research Pedigevania. Okay, so what is Q method? Anybody has heard about Q methodology? You have read any literature on it? I can see some nodding there. Okay. Would you like to tell me what is Q methodology in your words? Right. Okay. So Q methodology is an approach studying an individual's subjective views, or in other words, is the uniqueness of your subjective views. Okay. And another advantage of the method is it can be applied with small sample. Very small sample. It's instead, usually when we're talking about quantitative, is at least we'll have 30 to 50 students. Okay. And if for a large sample, it should be 200 above or 500. So for this method, you can include or involve or recruit a small number of representatives. Okay. And its advantage is to classify subjectivity to categorize people's viewpoints. So that means they are collecting viewpoints and they are grouping it into different category. And to explore core feelings within a community or identify distinctive individual perspectives, because they are extremes. They are extremes of their viewpoints. So we can figure out the uniqueness of this special group and the differences between another group. Okay, and to invest the subjective causes of events, because there must be some post hoc interviews involved after Q methodology. So Q methodology is a mixed method. It's not a quantitative method. It's not a qualitative either. It is a mixed method. Okay. So these are the steps in implementing Q methodology. The first one is to collect Q concourse out of in-depth interviews with small sample of interviewees and to construct a Q sample. And you might ask how many sample is enough, is sufficient. So sexualization of the data. Okay. If you ask more participants and there aren't too much information new, and then that's enough. So you can't say how many. Okay, it depends on the question. If the heterogeneity, if the group, the sample are heterogeneous, okay, or homogeneous. Homogeneity is very good. That means probably only 2 or 3. Okay, if that's heterogeneity, and that means you need to recruit more. Okay, and then we select P sample. But for P sample, usually it's purposeful sampling. It's not random sampling. Okay. There's once a guy approached me and asked, Professor Qin, I collected data from 250 participants for Q methodology. That's not, I wouldn't say it's not useful, but it's too much and over too many, because we know that there's the volume for the software, and the software cannot run that many. Okay, the software is designed for small sample. Okay, so and then to conduct the Q sorting and the interview, and finally we need to interpret the data. And data analysis is another challenge. Looks simple, but you have to name the different factor groups. So advantages of Q methodology is to capture the subjective systematically and to visualize it. And then it reviews the shared and divergent perspectives. Why it reviews shared as well as divergent perspectives, I'll let you know later. And it works with small samples. How small and how big, I'll let you know later. So it combines the advantages of qualitative study and also the factor analysis of quantitative strengths. Okay, so let's see firstly, not this one, I'll come back. So you can see here, this is the questionnaire of Q methodology. Just now I said it can visualize both the shared viewpoints and also the divergent viewpoints. Okay, so you can see here, these two and these two are the extremes, right? So these are the uniqueness of a group. And these, because it's normal, okay? So these are the shared, okay? So that's why it's both, it both tells you the shared viewpoints and the divergent viewpoints. Okay, so I've explained just now the, okay. So any questions on the theory and the methodology? Maybe we can do it later. Okay, so these are the several empirical studies we published in 2025. There are 3 of them. The first one is regarding teachers. The first group are the teachers that I'm so interested in. I want to know how teachers are getting along with AI. Okay, so we recruited about 34 participants, 17 novice and 17 experienced. And the study aims to uncover how emotional experience Perishvania shapes the cognitive emotional behavioral dynamics of teacher agency when integrating GenAI into teaching practices. So why agency? Why agency? Because agency is the term usually being explained as an actional term. What you did before, to tell how strong your agency is, or how weak your agency is, whether you've done it or not. Or in term like Ahern 2001 explained this is the capacity to take actions through social culture mediation. Okay. But from the views or from the lens of Perry-Giovanni, we understand agency is not just, we have agency, active agency. We also have passive agency. We also have the agency of not doing something as well as doing something, right? Okay. Of not willing to do something is concerned with your emotions, right? So definitely it's emotion embedded term. And there's another thing. Why do you want to do something? Why do you not want to do something? Okay, like on the way here, Urania kept explaining to me the track we come here from another campus is not very pleasant. But she keeps walking. So I had to walk too. So that means I'm conscious. Cognitively, I'm so conscious of the unpleasant walk, right? Emotionally, I did not like it, but actually, I did it. Okay, why? Because Radia is by my side. Okay, and Radia is kept comforting me. I'm sorry, this is not pleasant. This is very unpleasant. I said, no, it's not as unpleasant as I expected. So you can see any small little event is having the interplay of the three, right? Okay, so why are you excluding the other when you are explaining something? Impossible, right? Okay. So specifically, it asks, what are the representations of novice teachers agency in terms of the cognitive, emotional, behavioral triadic interaction, and what are the representation of experienced teachers agency in terms of Perry-Giovanni? Okay. So we have 34 participants, and we use CADE for the factor analysis with Q methodology, the data collected later. Okay. And drama is the conflicts or catalyst of the intersection of agency, or triadic intersection of agency. So Perry-Giovanni acts as a mediational process to integrate the three and converts cognitive evaluation into emotional motivation, then into behavioral decisions. And Perry-Giovanni functions as the integral to pivot of triadic system. So finally, we come to this this model. So I'm sorry, it's Chinese. But let me explain. So this is the teacher, and this is the invasion of artificial intelligence. And then we have conflicts, both emotional, actional, and cognitive. And with the mediation of Perry-Giovanni, ACE, and then we have emotional adaptation, cognitive construction, and behavioral innovation. So by the end, is the agency is to realize the goals through the resolution of conflicts and your practical creativity. Okay. But of course, you can see the squares, and with the arrow here in the middle, that means you need to have mediation. Just now I've explained the mediation is the key, one of the key of the development of your Perry-Giovanni. Okay, so that's the first one. And this is the second, although it's a Chinese paper, but it's regarding the narrative writing. We want to know, so just now we figured out what is the teacher perceiving this tool. And now I want to know what the students, are they willing to use it? and how they want to use it, and how they feel about using it. Okay, so the two questions are similar to the other research. And what are the emotional experiences of Pedijvania? And what are the dramas? What are the dramas? So this is 40, just now is 25 statements, and this one is 40. So what are the ratio between participants and Q sample? It can be 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. Okay. Okay. So based on the Q analysis, there are 3 distinct learner groups were identified. One is reflective development-oriented learners. They are tool and result focused. That means they not only focus on how to use AI, but also how well they performed. Okay. And the second one, intuitive result-oriented learners. That means they use the tool only because they want to have better results. Okay. And the last one, utility tool-oriented learners are the one who only cares about the tool. They don't care about the results at all. Okay. And of course, this group one emphasized both the tool and the result. And the second one value results over process. And the third one prioritized using GenAI over improving writing outcomes. So this is another model because we, apart from, you can see the historical feature of this one. We have past and later or at present. 5 minutes, okay. So we have 3 kinds of drama. One is self-regulated, another one is emotion-regulated, and then tool-regulated dramas. Okay. And this is a new study. Let me quickly go through it. Is just now, because we're talking about Pedijvania, it's mostly very subjective. Okay. So how you perceive your cognition is, how you perceive your emotion is, how you perceive you will do with it with AI, right? So it's very subjective kind of survey. But I would like to know later that what they perceived align with their real actions or not. So they think, for example, like they think they know how to use AI, they can use AI well, and they love AI so much, they use it a lot. But while they're actually using it, revising their writing, it turned out to be another story, what they actually do. So that's the gap between perception and action. So by doing this, I think it implies or bring back some implications for the designers of AI. Okay. It's just to impress. Okay, so the method here is Q methodology as well as translog. Okay. So I want to bring your attention to the designing of Q methodology with this taxonomy, the 7 dimensions taxonomy. So we designed Q methodology this time not only from interviews, but also out of what they have actually done revising these papers through AI. So there are 7 dimensions. There are something based on the previous studies and some one that we have observed from their recordings. Okay, and then we, of course, correlate them with their perceptions or Pedijvania to figure out their consistency. So there are 3 groups. Factor 1 is active, content-focused agents. And factor 2 are passive language-focused perceivers. And factor 3 are multidimensional focused participants. And we, of course, bring back some implications for the pedagogy approach. And for the learners of factor 1 who spend significantly longer focuses on content revision as the high overall consistency. And there are some key discrepancies in perception of alignments and what they actually have done later on regarding the dimension of the alignment. Okay. I think I'll just leave it there. Because later on I will talk about the future studies. And maybe I can talk about it later after QA. Is that okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Qin.